If you're the janitor, you get paid the same as the brain surgeon. Now, how about you? But I wouldn't want no guy that's getting paid what the janitor's getting paid to operate on my brain. I'm just throwing that out there. Hey, welcome back to LUSO, a show about our great country, and where we're just passionate about teaching the next generation why this is a great country, why it even matters. Why does it matter? And again, of course, you've been living under a rock. You didn't pay attention, and it's our nation's 250th anniversary, which is why we have this cake right here. That's why we got it. We're about to celebrate, but before we celebrate, before we cut the cake, we're just trying to unpack what God was doing. What was happening in our founding fathers? What were they doing? So, yesterday we were talking about the Pilgrims, which is a little before our founding fathers. Kind of, they're still founding. Founding fathers are really referring to those that were instrumental in the American Revolution, which obviously became, the beginning of this great country. July 4, 1776. That was the Declaration of Independence. That's why we're about to celebrate 250th, because July 4, 2026, 250 years, right? Just trying to unpack that for you. But I don't know about you, but I've been blessed to travel the world, and I've gone to about 30 different countries. So if you haven't ever traveled outside of the United States, maybe tuning in and listening to what we're talking about here is helpful for you. But if you traveled outside of the United States, you might go to just south of Florida. You go to Cuba. Cuba is a communist country. My wife and I were there a number of years ago. And if you didn't know, in Cuba in particular, 100 miles off the coast of Florida, mind you, I think I'm just reiterating, 100 miles off the coast of Florida. Saying it again. If you go to Cuba, then you'll find out that for them, in their country, illegal to buy and sell cars for the last 50 years. Now, only recently they've been allowed to buy and sell a car, but they don't have any money. Like, people in Cuba, they live on $1 a day, like $30 a month. That's how much they make. Now, remember, communism is like everybody gets paid the same. If you're the janitor, you get paid the same as the brain surgeon. Now, how about you? But I wouldn't want no guy that's getting paid what the janitor's getting paid to operate on my brain. I'm just throwing that out there. But that's the way they live in Cuba. And I've been to Cuba. The Cuban people are wonderful people. They're beautiful people. But they have a very hard life. That's because they don't have the U.S. Constitution, a constitution like the U.S., I should say. So when we look back in history and we see our founding fathers, not only did we fight for our independence and we declare our independence, and then we fight against the British and we win our independence, but then we see a number of years later that our founding fathers wrestle through about 4 months of debate and arguing and deliberation to pen the U.S. Constitution, which changed our lives. And again, back in Cuba, if you go to Cuba today, you live under the communist regime where you're told, here's the grocery store you're able to go to. You're only allowed to go to this one store to buy your groceries. That's it. You don't have Costco. You don't have BJ's. You don't have Walmart. You got none of that. None of that. You have one store. And if you go to that store and you just want to buy some stinking toilet paper, just something simple, toilet paper, and they don't have toilet paper, guess what? You don't got nothing. You got to use your hand or something, a leaf. I don't know. Hopefully you don't use poison ivy. That'd be bad. Just saying. But in Cuba, that's the way they live. They're wonderful people, beautiful people, but they don't have the Constitution that we have, that we get to enjoy, that our founding fathers plowed the ground for us to enjoy still to this day, a great country. Okay? That's what I'm trying to help you understand. And in Cuba, sometimes they regulate meat. Matter of fact, in Cuba, in case you didn't know, it's illegal to eat beef. Illegal. They don't have steak. Nope. They have cows everywhere. People are always like, oh, that's probably because they don't have cows. No, they got cows. When I was in Cuba, our car almost hit a cow in the road. So they got the cows. They're not allowed to eat beef. It's government control at its worst, And then you're allowed to eat chicken, but sometimes they tell you your family's only allowed to eat one chicken this whole month. That's it, one chicken. Beans and rice for the rest of the month. Think about that. Here in America, we have no idea how good we have it until you go outside, Look, I'm just telling you, 100 miles off the coast of Florida, you can go find out just how good you have it in this great country. And if you go to Mexico, you find out you're not supposed to drink the water. Don't drink the water. Because why? It's not clean. Even other countries, okay, in Mexico, it might be a free country, but you still don't live as good. We have been blessed in this great country. That's what I'm trying to help you understand. But in particular, we're talking about the U.S. Constitution. And if you go look this up, you'll find in the world today, we have about 195, give or take, countries in the world. And about 180 of them actually can look and we can see, scholars will say, go look this up. About 180 of the countries today, the constitutions that they have had been influenced in some way, shape, or form by the U.S. Constitution. So think about that. Think about what these men were writing, what they were penning 200 and some years ago, a little bit less than 250, because 250, our nation's 250th anniversary next year, is from 1776 to 2026, right? But what we see is the U.S. Constitution was written 1787, so it was a little bit further down the road, but 55 men debated and argued and discussed how to put our great country together. And it was so good what they penned that many countries around the globe began to pen their own constitution based on what they actually wrestled and argued and debated about. Now think about this. I don't know about you, but I've been married almost 30 years, and I have a hard time just me and my wife getting on the same page about doing something simple. Like, where are we going to dinner? It might be that simple. Think about writing out a constitution with 55 dudes, right? Some of these dudes, you might like to go out and hunt and, chase down a deer or whatever. Maybe you enjoy that with some guy, but some of the other ones, you're like, nah, I ain't taking him hunting. That guy, nah. That guy is way too off the reservation. But that's what these guys were doing. It's not like they were all lovey-dovey. They had to argue through. But here's what's crazy is to say these guys are flawed men. These guys were not perfect at all. Not at all. But God used them instrumentally to write this great Constitution. And in fact, what we see is many countries around the globe have an influence of some way, shape, or form in their Constitution. Even as of in the last 20 so years, countries that have rewritten and changed some of the things. Now I'm going to take a look at my notes because I really want to unpack this a little bit further for you, because there's really what we can see is that modern constitutions will say there was about 5 provisions. So historians that really have studied the Constitution, 5 provisions that we see that are important and critical, in case you didn't know this, in case you didn't. And so I just want to help you understand those 5 things. So number 1 is the separation of powers that we have in this great country. In case you didn't know, there's the executive, there's the legislative, and there's the judicial branches of our government. That's important. And so many of the other countries around the globe say, well, hey, you know what? That seems to be working for those guys over there in the United States. Shoot. Then you have number 2 is the checks and balances, so that we don't have a rogue politician who's going off and doing his own damn thing. Now, I know the media likes to say that some, president this and president that, he's gone off the deep end, he's become a king or whatever. Look, we're not trying to get political here. I believe that God was doing something extraordinary in our founding fathers back then. I believe that God's still at work. It ain't about men. It's not about the left or the right or whatever. I think it's what God is doing. And that's what I want to just say is like the checks and balances that were put in place, number 2, that was actually really, really critical. And so other countries around the globe, they've gone, I think what they're doing, there's something up to that. Number three, the bicameral legislature. So that is 2 separate chambers for its lawmaking body, a House and a Senate, right? Number 4 is federalism. The 4th thing, federalism, a mode of government that combines the general level of government, like a central federal government, with a regional level of subunit government. So like the states, and then you have a county, and then you have a city. And so there's multiple levels of government all throughout our great country. And again, we see that other countries looked at that and they were like, huh, that Constitution that those guys wrote back, 1787, that's pretty damn brilliant. And 180 countries we've seen have adopted. And then number 5 is the Bill of Rights, and really see the fundamental rights and liberty guaranteed to individuals by the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, like the freedom of speech or religion. We talked about religion yesterday, but the freedom of press. I mean, those types of freedoms that we have, the Bill of Rights, critical. And again, other countries are out there going, I think those guys knew what they were doing. So here's what's wild is when you unpack that blessing that we have in this great country, and that here we are about to celebrate our nation's 250th anniversary. That Constitution is still in place. As a matter of fact, if you go look this up, it's the longest standing Constitution still in place in the world. That's how we've been blessed in this great country. And I dare say those founding fathers, when they were arguing and debating and all that they went through for those 4 months to pen the Constitution, they had no idea how it would impact millions, if not billions. I'd say we can dare say billions of people over generations have been impacted by what those guys wrote. That's the kind of blessing that you and I need to understand and actually not take it for granted, but actually soak that up, because in this great country, and we've been blessed. So, hey, tune in tomorrow and we'll talk about another one of those blessings that we have because of our founding fathers. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Hit subscribe below, but more than that, click the link below, LUSO.tv. Watch our short film. That's how you can really help us. Together, you and I, we can educate 83% of Americans that don't understand why we fought the American Revolution. But I need your help. We need your help. So share it with your friends. Pay it forward. Send it to 1,000 of your friends. Okay, maybe 100, 10 of your friends. Pay it forward. Click the link, LUSO.tv.